All right, good Wednesday morning, everyone. It is 4 minutes after 9 on this February 15th, and I've been mentioning to you all week long. We've been talking about it, and we have an event coming up on Friday to benefit Wishes Can Happen, you know, the charity near and dear to our hearts. But I'm going to talk about that event. We're going to get to that. But before we do, we want to talk to the person who is, well, he is the event, basically. And his name is Bob Mohr, and he is in studio with me this morning. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Pam. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to have you in here this morning.
Thank you.
So you're gonna be running for Wishes, but before we get to talking about all of that,
Okay.
I want people to understand your story and to hear. I said to you off the air, from the very beginning, as they say. Let's start at the very beginning. So, you know, tell people a little bit about, you know, where you grew up and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
So I'm 57 years old. I grew up on the Toledo, Ohio border in Michigan. For the first 10 years, we lived in Ohio and then moved to Michigan. I'm the oldest of 12 children. I have 9 sisters, 2 brothers. My father is 88, my mother's 81, and because of my poor choices in life, I'm just starting to talk to them again. So I'm a recovering addict.
Yes.
And I was homeless at times, stole my parents' identity more than once. It's got nothing to do with upbringing. There's 11 brothers and siblings that never did that. So,
Yeah.
and I destroyed a lot of relationships and fought my way back. And coming up in April, it'll be 9 years I've been sober.
Congratulations. That's a wonderful thing. And so growing up, I mean, what led you to addiction? I mean, obviously it's an illness that people have, right? But as it manifested itself, how did that happen?
It was, I know a lot of people say like marijuana is the gateway drug. I believe alcohol is. Because when I was offered cocaine, I was drunk. Said, no problem. Yeah, sure. Would I have done that sober? I don't know. And I just liked it. I liked how it made me feel. It made me not have to feel. There was some things that happened in my childhood, but overall it was just the progression of addiction and me wanting only what I wanted turned into a selfish addict.
And what age did this start?
Probably about 20, 21. And by the time I was 35, I had 8 drunk drivings. At this time, I have my license revoked for life. I'm fighting to get that back right now. And eventually you just, you don't care. It's a slow suicide. I was too much of a coward to kill myself, but I was slowly killing myself. In and out of rehabs, 7 rehabs, brief periods of sobriety here and there. The relationship, I have a son, granddaughter I haven't met because it's his choice, and I understand. I was in and out of his life for so many years. Yeah, I'm going to be at this event. The answering machine, Dad, this is your weekend, where you at? And, you know, I was either getting drunk at a bar, smoking crack, shooting heroin. I mean, you know, I can't change that past, and I don't dwell on it, but I'd never forget it either. And one of the times, and every time that I went back out, it was a choice. I don't call it a relapse. To me, a relapse is a coward's word made up by the industry. You poor baby, you relapsed. No, I just made a choice to say, screw everything I worked hard to get back in my life. I don't want to feel right now. And I would go back out. And on one of those occasions, I ended up becoming HIV positive also. My diagnosis date is March 5th, 2012. So I'm coming up on 11 years living with that.
Wow.
And that was actually, people laugh when I say that, one of the greatest blessings, because it got me.
Why would you? Yes.
Yeah, it gave me the never give up attitude. So I I didn't know anything about HIV when I was diagnosed. I thought I'd be dead in a year. All I knew was from the late 80s. I didn't believe the doctors at the time. When I was first diagnosed, when I Googled it, it said I was going to be dead in three weeks, basically, because you know how Google is.
Right.
And I ended up going to the medical college at University of Toledo Medical College and reading a lot about it, along with asking questions to doctors. Kind of like an advocate now. And all through that, I was a union painter. Relationships with my brothers and sisters came and went. At times they let me live with them, thinking they could help me, they could change me, take my check from me every week. Everything you hear about addiction stories. Mom and dad living with them in my mid-30s into my 40s. They were my biggest enabler. They're back in my life now, But in the year 2000, I met a guy in Toledo, and 12-step recovery to me was BS. And now it is the only way for me for my recovery. But it didn't work for me because I was different, because I chose to be different instead of being like everybody else. I was Irish, I was Catholic, I was a Marine, I was a blue collar worker. I'm supposed to drink.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And when you were diagnosed HIV positive, I mean, that was just another blow for you. I mean, I can't even imagine, how you handled it.
Well, let's go back to 2000 first. So I was living with my sister and brother-in-law, and there was a guy in Toledo that started a program called Racing for Recovery. And he chose to start the program as an alternative to 12-step recovery. And I was living with them, and they introduced me to him, and he was so excited to tell me the program. And he had just started it. And he did Ironmans. And his enthusiasm was like, I wanted to be him instead of be like him. I wanted to be him. Well, obviously that didn't work. I ended up still leaving my sister and brother-in-law's house, I don't know, 3 weeks later. Took one of my checks and did my disappearing act like I do. But that was always in the corner of my head. So in the year 2007 was the worst year of my life. I was homeless, living from the southeast side of Detroit to the north side of Toledo and wandering back and forth, living in crack houses, wherever I could sleep, sometimes homeless shelters. And I had a cousin that he married into our family, and he owned a roofing company, and he was like my connect to the family. And he would let me work, give me a check, and I did when I needed to work, I would work for a couple reasons. The check, and I knew he'd buy me lunch every day, so I'd have something to eat that day. And from time to time, he'd take me back to his house for a steak dinner during the week. And I'd go to those because after I knew when he dropped me off to wherever I was staying, I could say, hey, can I get a couple bucks? And, he had 4 children, him and my cousin, and Samantha had SMA, and she was in a wheelchair. And she was 9 that year. And there's just some things that happened that year. I'd be over there, and it was the middle of summer, and all the kids would be hanging out, and all of a sudden they'd jump on their bikes and take off. And Samantha would look at me this one day in particular and said, I wish I could ride a bike, Bobby. And I just like, what the heck, God? Why do you do this to children? And on the other side, too, I can't wait to leave here and get high so I can forget her pain. And 10 seconds later, she grabbed her joystick on her wheelchair and did a little pinwheel and said, they can't do this, though, can they, Bobby? But still, I wanted to get high to forget her pain because my mind was so twisted. She'd want to go for walks, and she liked to chase butterflies and catch that butterfly, Bobby. And, I was smoking crack. I was smoking cigarettes. I couldn't run. There was another time that summer, she came out of the house crying in her wheelchair. And I said, "What's wrong, Samantha?" And she said, "Mommy won't let me go swimming." So I went in and talked to Beth, and I said, "I'll take her in the pool." She got her dressed, and we were in the pool, and, her little mangled feet were she's in her tube, and on the concrete steps, she was going up and down them with her feet. And she said, "Hey, Bobby, look, God lets me walk when I'm in the water." And once again, my twisted, sick thinking where I was, why do you do this to children, God? What is your problem? And all I wanted to do was get high to forget her pain. And all she cared about was she could walk when she was in the water. Mm-hmm. So, and on and off, I'd be over there. And there was it was Labor Day weekend of 2007. It was the last home game for the Toledo Mud Hens, because that's where I'm from. And Scott said, "You want to go to the game with us?" And at that point, Scott had actually kicked in the door of a crack house I was living in and said, "Get your crap and get out of here. I'm putting you up in a hotel. And you're going to be there every morning when I pick you up to work. You're not doing this crap anymore." So
that takes
we did.
Takes a lot of courage
It
for
does,
somebody to do that for you. Yeah.
He got me a room with a suite. We bought some pans at Kmart, filled my fridge. He didn't realize that the hotel that I was living in was pretty much a drug den. A week after that, he found out. He said, "Why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "I didn't know." But anyway, so we go there to change my clothes, and there's a dealer's car who I owe money to. And I'm like, "I'll be right out. I know that car." And as I come out, this guy comes out. "I want my money, Bob. I want my money now." Scott's got his kids in the van, and, we're ready to throw down. And Scott looks at him and says, on the way there, Scott stopped at the ATM to go to the game. He said, what does Bob owe you?" And I forget the amount, but he said, "I have $300 on me. Will that get me and my family out of here?" And he paid it. And he said, "Bob will contact you. He works for me. I'll make sure he pays you every week till he pays you off." He said, "Get in the van, Bob." And we're driving down, and he just looks at me. He said, "I suppose you expect me to buy you a hot dog now, too." So that's my cousin,
Yeah. That's a great human right there.
So I kept working till the snow started to fly. I got a big check, and I disappeared because it was cold outside. So I'd rather be homeless than work on a roof and make money. Yeah, go figure, right? Mm-hmm. In January of 2008, I was kicked out of a crack house for stealing, and I had really no options left. I could have went to Cherry Street Mission in Toledo, but I chose to turn myself into jail for some warrants I had, and that's when the life of recovery started. So
wow.
I'm the judge. The first day, he says he actually let me sit for like 2 weeks because he was a little irritated because I was supposed to be in court in December, and he asked me. He said, "Where were you in December?" And for the first time ever in my life, I said, "Your Honor, I was in a crack house getting high. I need help." And the crowd in the courtroom was like, "Oh, did you hear what that white boy just said?" And he thanked me. He said, "I'm going to send you back to the dorm you're staying in." And I was living in a recovery dorm in the Lucas County Jail. And he said, "I'm going to have them do an assessment on you and bring you back." So week goes by, and I'm looking at like 2 to 5 years.
Wow.
On what was transpiring. And come back the next week, and he said, "Where's the paperwork on Robert Mohr's assessment?" And I'm like, "Well, nobody came and got me, Your Honor." And he got irritated. Not at me, at his people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said, "Well, I'm going to send you back, and if they don't do it in 1 week, we're just going to go from there." And as I turned around to walk back to the dorm, and I'm in shackles, I said, "Your Honor, I'm up for sheriff's release." And they would have released me. It was overcrowding and not all nonviolent crimes were. I said, "If I get released, I'm not coming back. He said, thank you, Mr. Mohr. I will block that. And that was the first time I've ever been honest, 100% wanting to change my life. So the following week, I go back and still no assessment. So he has to move forward. And like I said, I'm looking at 2 to 5 years. And he says, Mr. Mohr, if I sentence you to prison, none of these fines are going to get paid. Your child support you're behind won't get paid. I'm giving you 60 days of work release or until you find a job and a safe place to live. I'm like, wow. So I leave there and I go back to the dorm waiting for them to take me to child support or to work release. And the Toledo Blade is there, and I open the obituaries, and there's a picture of Samantha. She had passed away. And, how do you call collect to your cousins that did everything for you? It was a tough day. My first thought was, I can't wait to get to work release and escape.
Oh, wow.
I didn't. And I picture heaven for children like that. It's a big old dead oak tree with a storm and thunder and lightning always, and all these rusted wheelchairs and the braces they wear and crutches just in a rusty pile there.
Yep.
And I see Samantha just running through a field chasing butterflies.
And she's your little guardian angel. I'm going to tell you that right now. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you got to the Marines and how you got throughout the day or throughout that time period and leading up to now. But stay tuned, and we'll talk more with Bob Mohr this morning. This incredible and inspirational story. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. News Talk 1480 WHBC. Pam Cook with you this morning, and guest with me this morning is Bob Mohr. And Bob is going to be doing some running on Friday. Just a little, right?
Just a little bit, yes.
It's our Running for Wishes event, and it's actually his event because he's going to get on a treadmill for 24 straight hours at Kempthorne and raise money for Wishes Can Happen. You were saying before when you first got here this morning, so you are you in training for this in any way, shape, or form, or how does that work? You've done so many. You've done so many runs.
I'm pretty much in shape for a 24-hour run at any given point.
It's just that's just a tiny little minuscule thing, right?
And there will be 3 extra treadmills for anybody that would like to join in at any time.
That's great. That's great.
And Planet Fitness is delivering them. They're from Planet Fitness, setting all 4 up for us.
All right.
So there will be 4, one for me, and then my friend Steven will be running for a little bit of the event, but plenty of treadmills and time to come up and share miles with me and keep me awake.
Yeah, keep them awake. So 24 straight hours, and we're going to have the run cam on you so people can watch. We won't put any volume up, but so people can watch at WHBC.com. And
cool. They can see my cool tattoos because I usually don't run with a shirt on.
See there? See, that's what he keeps telling us. We kept saying, let's put a radio station shirt on you. No, I don't. I run with no shirt on. So this is going to happen starting at 10 o'clock on Friday. And when we come back, we're going to take a break for the news right now. But when we come back, we want to finish talking about your story.
Okay.
Because we haven't even gotten to the Marine Corps part yet. And all of the things that have occurred. And then, how you got to the point where you are today. And we also want to talk about you meeting Peter Stentz and his family.
Sure.
So
yes.
we will, Peter being one of our wish kids, and that leads us to what's going to happen on Friday. But we'll do all of that. We'll take a quick break here, as I said, for news. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. And Bob is a great guy and has a lot to share with you. And hopefully you'll stay tuned. All right, 9:34 on your Wednesday morning, and we are talking about something that's coming up this Friday, Running for Wishes. Friday morning at 10 a.m., Bob Mohr is going to get on a treadmill at Kempthorne, and he's going to go for 24 hours straight. And Bob is here with me this morning, and we've been kind of talking about the story because I think that the story and how this led you to all of this is so important for people to hear the story. And
Thank you.
Kind of where we left off was, you were in a situation with your cousin and had to deal with the loss of his child and who you became close with. And so what did that send you to next?
From there, I was in work release. And like I said, I was sentenced to 60 days or until I found a job and a safe place to live. And once you know God had my back, I was out on the 59th day. I didn't even have to do 60 days. And I moved into a halfway house. And I was working for the city of Toledo through a temp service for minimum wage. But I was proud because I had a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a union painter by trade. And most of the contractors in Toledo wanted no part of me because a lot of us got paid on either Wednesday or Thursday. And when I got paid, you wouldn't see me till the money was gone. So I would get up and go to my job every morning, and all these guys from the halfway house, there were three houses together in Toledo called the Open Door, and there were like, I think 72 beds. I don't know if there was ever 72 people there, but a lot of them didn't work. A lot of them were going to meetings and everything. I had to go to work. Some of them were trying to get their life, get out of addiction, just like me. But every morning I would leave for work, and I'd be up there, and they'd be smoking their cigarettes and drinking coffee, and I'd be going to work, and I'd be like, damn. And I'd come home, and they'd still be on the porch, now drinking Coca-Cola and smoking cigarettes. I'd be like, I don't want my life to be this. If this is going to be recovery, I'm not going to make it. And I went down in the basement and just sat on the couch and started crying one day, just overwhelmed. And then I remembered that guy from Racing for Recovery. And I'm like, I want to be him. I want to be him. Again, I wanted to be somebody else instead of me. And I started running. And my goal at that point was to run 3 miles in 18 minutes, which was a perfect score in the Marine Corps physical fitness test. And I started running with so much anger. These halfway houses were in the hood in Toledo. A lot of places where I copped dope, where I did a lot of my dirt. And I mean, I just ran down the sidewalk, just barely missing people, tempting them to hit me. And eventually that anger quelled and started going away as I ran. And I finally did the 3 miles in 18 minutes. And then I just continued running 3 to 5 miles a day. I got out of the halfway house, made up with my parents, had my family back in my life. My son at that time was back in my life. He had called when at the halfway house. I couldn't call him because we had one phone and didn't do long distance, blah, blah, blah. A friend let me use the cell phone to contact him. And they're running around looking for me. And, hey, where's Mohr at? His son's on the phone. And we're talking, and at that time, he was in the Marine Corps, a presidential color guard, and he was in the guardhouse outside the White House. And he's like, Dad, guess where I'm calling from? And he told me, and I'm like, damn. I said, buddy, I'm so proud of you. And he said, I'm so proud of you, Dad, for having the courage to change.
Wow.
And so that was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
I ended up moving down to Texas. I got into doing teen retreats down there, worked for a big contractor down there, was involved and still running 3 to 5 miles about 5 days a week. I didn't want to race. I knew really nothing about racing.
I say, were you an athlete at all when you were younger?
I was a wrestler in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the Marine Corps, when I was in the Marine Corps, my ego wanted me to run. And I was faster than a lot of people. So that part drove me. And the kids in 2011 talked me into running a 5K for the teen retreats as a fundraiser. So I'm like, okay. And I ended up taking second. I got beat by a 19-year-old kid. And I'm like, darn, that was really cool. But there again, I didn't run anymore. I didn't want to race. And that was in 2012. towards the end of 2011 into 2012, I had an ex start blasting me on Facebook about STDs and me giving her something and blah, blah, blah. And we were blocked, and some of the parents were like, what's going on here, Bob? You're doing these teen retreats, and this girl is saying this. And finally, I just was like, I'm going to prove her wrong. And I went to the San Antonio CDC and got checked. And a week later, I went on a Monday. On a Thursday, they called and told me I had to come in. I said, can't you just tell me over the phone I got blah, 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 because my ex says I got blah, blah, blah. No, sir, you have to come in. Well, I didn't go in until the following Monday. And when I went in there, they're like, Mr. Mohr, do you know why you're here? I said, well, my ex says I got blah, 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 so you're probably going to tell me I got blah, blah, blah. Give me a shot. We'll go on my way. Mm-hmm. And he's got a social worker's got a clipboard, and he says, no, you don't have blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, you're HIV positive. And that's how I found out. Yeah. And my heart went below my belly. All I heard from that guy was Charlie Brown's teacher, blah, 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 blah. I heard a couple things. Magic Johnson has lived with this forever. Two things I remember. He said that, and more people die from diabetes than HIV now. Those are the only two things I remember in like an hour and a half. And them grilling me over sexual partners. We need to know everybody you've slept with and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just, it was like I had flashlights on me in the Inquisition. And I was dating somebody at the time, and they wanted her number. And I'm like, no, she's going to hear this from me, not from you. And so when I left there, thought about crashing my truck, just ending it. Thought about a huge pile of cocaine. And I thought about my shotgun at home. And I got through it. There was doing the teen retreats. I didn't know anything. I told the one guy, I'm like, dude, can I go on retreat with these kids? I knew nothing about HIV. I didn't. And I didn't know, if I sneezed on them, it might give them.
Right.
And he said, let's talk to Father Flanagan. So we did. The old Irish priest, actual name, Father
Flanagan. That's from a movie.
And he said, well, my son, have you committed any crimes? And I said, no, none that you don't already know from my personal testimony. I have 38 incarcerations. And then he said, I see how you work with the kids around here. You're very good with the kids, Bob. I see no reason why you can't, but it's up to the church board. And they told me I couldn't go because they were afraid what other people would think. And I had no clue what that even meant. And there was a lot of anger at that time. And that's when I ended up moving back to Toledo.
And where did the Marine Corps come in?
I went into the Marine Corps right out of high school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, way
so
back.
Early on.
Yeah,
okay.
And I was in the reserves. Really didn't do anything. Trained, never got deployed. My highlight was being company honor man at infantry training school. I was the best out of about 1,200 people. I was number one. And other than that, proud that I served, but really didn't do anything extraordinary other than raise my right hand.
Yeah.
So
well, and then you come to a point where now you have to decide, how you're going to continue to further on your recovery, right?
Yeah, and I was dating a woman at that time, and that was hard because she accused me of giving her this on purpose. She had to get tested. Thankfully, she did not test positive. Went through, but like I said, I was still running. So at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to be dead or unhealthy in a year. I need a bucket list. I need to run a marathon. And in October of 2012, I ran my first marathon, and it was a Marine Corps marathon. Oh. And I wasn't even on medication yet for HIV, for my HIV drugs. And then since then, it's just escalated. I found out about 100-mile races. I've done, I think I've ran 26 or 27, finished 18.
That's unreal.
A lot of marathons, half marathons, 50Ks, 5Ks, 10Ks.
And what do you feel like when you're running? What's the feeling that you have?
Blessed. It's, God gave me my life back. And it's my way to honor God because he gave me the gift of running. And that's why I try to help others. But through all that, there was a major relapse.
Okay.
And I know I said I hate that word, but it was around November of 2013. I don't remember the exact day till into April of 2014. And at that point, I stuck a dagger in most of my family's life, especially in my son's, and he's not been back in my life since. And so this past weekend for Super Bowl was the first time I was invited to Guy's weekend for Super Bowl with my father, my brothers, my brother-in-laws, my nephews. My brother Marty couldn't make it, but me and my dad and my brother took a picture as near as we could remember. It's the first time since 2016. So, I mean, as long as you never give up and, and you follow the path that God gives you, good things will happen. Yeah. I'm a staunch supporter of the 12 steps of AA and my meetings and my sobriety group and my running. When I'm alone running, it's nobody or nothing can ever touch me or hurt me. None of the demons from the past, none of the monsters under my bed, in the closet, the skeletons aren't anymore. I've let every one of those out.
Mm-hmm.
People ask how you got HIV, dirty needles. There was, I have to be transparent and 100% honest. There were dirty needles, but there was sex with men and women. When I got sober, I went through a lot of therapy thinking, am I gay? Am I this? Am I that? I did what I had to do to survive. And a lot of times it was a place to stay for the night. It was the drugs at times. It was actually the sex at times. And sometimes it was literally the feeling that somebody wanted me, even though that's how twisted my mind was, is that I was with somebody that actually wanted me, although they didn't want me. They wanted me because of what was going on.
Yeah.
And that was a major reason, I believe, those secrets I held in and didn't get them out. And that's why I chose to go out and destroy everything that my ex and I and her daughter had started creating. I ruined a lot, and hurt a lot of people. And there are some people we can't go back and make amends to.
Yeah.
We just can't. And this time with my family, they heard I'm sorry 1,000,000 freaking times. They couldn't hear it this time. It was the only thing I could do was my actions over and over and over. And my mother and father have just been back in my life for about a year and a half now.
Oh, that's good.
And she's my biggest supporter now. But she also will remind me, we're very proud, but don't you ever forget, you should have never been doing that. She says the SH word to begin with, Robert. And when she says Robert, yes.
Yes, she's serious.
You never
right?
should have been doing that stuff. So
right. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how you met Peter Stentz. And we're going to talk about the event on Friday. That's all coming up. Everyone, stay tuned. All right, about 7 minutes away now from the top of the hour. News will come your way at 10 o'clock. And again, been having a wonderful conversation with Bob Mohr. And the story that you told us, obviously, I can't recap everything that we've been talking about in the last hour. But let's take us to the point now where our wish kid, Peter Stentz, and that is why you are running for wishes coming up on Friday. Talk about how you met Peter and his family.
I met Peter, my friend Steven Strawn, who's going to be at the event for a few hours running with me on this event. His son went with Peter to school down in New Philly or Dover. And he decided to do a fundraiser for the Stentz family and asked me to be involved. And that's how I met Peter, Chris Ann, and Daniel. We went up, I think 2 days before we did the event in November of 2019 to the Ronald McDonald House and met Peter. And what did we play? I think we played Sorry, we played Uno, we played a bunch of games and and what a fun kid he was.
Yeah.
And then after the event, Chris Ann, I'd get updates on Peter throughout everything. They became very supportive of my recovery, my running. We communicated a lot, and up until Peter passed away. When he went into remission, I remember the one conversation Daniel and I had via text when he got to go back to school. When Peter went back to school, like right after COVID, when schools opened up, and he was somewhat I don't know if he was totally in remission, but he was able to go back. And after Daniel picked him up that day, he asked him what the best thing about going back to school was. And he said, "Dad, I got to feel like a normal kid again."
Oh, boy.
And yeah. And then when he started getting sicker and sicker, I was at the Wish-a-thon, or not the Wish-a-thon, but when Peter got his wish at
yes.
at General RV, they invited me there. That was really cool. He had no clue.
Yeah.
And heard through text about his hunting trip. He got to shoot a moose, and then Peter actually passed away on my birthday this past year.
Oh my gosh.
And I just wanted to be able to honor Peter, and I really like what Wishes Can Happen does, and that it's local. So I contacted them to make sure we could do it, because I feel like sometimes I don't want to exploit somebody's story just to raise money, and that was hard for me. And they said, absolutely, let's go for it. So
yes,
so that's how the whole thing came about. So this is to run in honor of Peter.
And we love that, and we all love Peter so much. And
he was such a character.
Oh, such a character. His interview on the radio when he came to the Wish-a-thon in August was classic. And I've played it a couple of times on this show.
Awesome.
And it was wonderful, and his parents are wonderful. And Wishes Can Happen near and dear to our heart for a really long time.
Right.
So we thank you so much.
Well, thank you for
doing
everything
this.
you're doing for this thing too.
This is going to be
getting the airplay. It's going to be fun.
We can't wait. We can't wait. I guess we're all going to run vicariously through you, except for those who step onto the extra.
Right, there will be extra
treadmills.
and you can pledge. I don't know if anybody wants to pledge per mile that I'm going to run. I will probably run between 80 to 100 miles.
Oh my gosh, so. I can't even.
Yeah,
this starts at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. And he will go 24 hours straight. He's going to be in the Kempthorne VW and Mazda showroom on Cleveland Avenue Northwest. So you can stop in and make a donation. Stop in and jump on a treadmill for however
jump
long.
on a treadmill with me.
That's right.
Keep me motivated.
We'll also have
come up and laugh laugh at me.
Yeah, stand there and eat a piece of pizza in front of him or something, right?
Right.
But you can also, we want to remind folks, they'll be able to go on our website at WHBC.com and also Mix941.com, and you'll be able to watch the live stream of Bob, and then also be able to make a donation right there. There's a button. You just click on it. It says donate now, and you'll be able to go to the Wishes site and make a donation there too. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. We're very excited about it. So what kind of things can we expect to happen in that 24 hours while you're at Kempthorne?
God only knows.
See, and we're not going to put the volume up.
Yes. I like to have fun. We're going to joke around. We'll run fast. I've been known to eat a Big Mac while I'm walking on a treadmill. I'll eat some pizza. There will be donuts involved. I do like to eat donuts when I run.
Very good. Do you have to eat? Do you have to eat stuff?
Yeah.
Obviously?
I have to have calories, and there'll be hydration. I'll drink coffee, Coca-Cola, a lot of water.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
It's a fun event. Yeah. It's a fun way to raise money.
Well, I think, it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, for Wishes Can Happen and in honor of the Stentz family, but also for yourself,
Well, thank you. Yes. This is the way I can honor God back for giving me my life. Yes.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. We appreciate it. And I will see you on Friday, sir.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Thanks. All right. And again, remember, go to our website. You can check it out. It's right there on the homepage at WHBC.com. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do it right now if you want to. But also, Bob will be on the treadmill starting at 10 a.m. on Friday morning at Kempthorne VW and Mazda on Cleveland Avenue Northwest.